חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח לדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם. באהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. When we lie down, when we rise up, this joy will last forever. When we lie down, when we rise up, this joy will last forever, forever. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת.
This evening, Shabbat Shalom. It is a pleasure to welcome each of you as we celebrate Shabbat evening services here at Temple Emanuel of South Hills. Welcome, welcome, whether you're with us in the Beit HaT'fila, whether you're with us in virtual community. I'm excited to have you this evening as we sing, as we celebrate our way into Shabbat.
Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, chiri biri bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom. Ki yashmer ha-Shabbat el yishmereni, Ki yashmer ha-Shabbat el yishmereni, oti le'omeyad beino u'beini, oti le'omeyad beino u'beini, ki yashmer ha-Shabbat el yishmereni, ki yashmer ha-Shabbat el yishmereni, oti le'omeyad beino
we turn first to page 2 and then to page 5 in our prayer books. Pages 2 for our Shabbat candles, page 5 for our Shabbat evening Kiddush. I invite forward David and Penny Abrams to join us to bring some extra light, some extra warmth, some extra sweetness into this world.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiyashanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'halak ner shel Shabbat. Success.
The heaven and the earth are finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God had ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for trying to figure this out. You almost needed to be an octopus to do an honor at synagogue nowadays. I'm grateful. We continue now, page 12, as we continue singing our way into Shabbat with the melodies of Kabbalat Shabbat, Lechu Neranena, Psalm 95, page 12.
Lechu Neranena, yai dai 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 dai, l'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, nari yai dai 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 dai, letzor Yisheinu, yai dai 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 dai. Let us sing out to God, maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear God's song. Lechu neranena, yai dai dai. L'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, Nahariya, yai dai 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 dai, Litzo Yishenu, yai dai 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 dai. For all of the wonders and all of God's light, we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena, yai dai 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 dai, L'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, Nahariya, yai dai 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 dai, Litzo Yishenu, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai.
Talked about how it would be helpful to be an octopus to juggle a prayer book and a microphone. It's also helpful as we turn to the next page. Julie Silver's setting of Psalm 96, Shiru L'Adonai, goes with the second line of the Hebrew before the first line of the Hebrew, and the English is on page 14, while the Hebrew is on page 13. It's a version you know. You're invited to sing along with us if you can figure out how to turn the pages to do so.
Shiru L'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru L'Adonai shir chadash, Shiru L'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru L'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru L'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru L'Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
On pages 20 and 21, we find words of Lecha Dodi inviting Shabbat itself into this space with us as we continue in song and in prayer.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'ribor echad, Hishmi'anu Elamei echad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshvat tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, toreri, ki va'orech kumi uri, uri uri shir daberi, כבורני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת
I invite you to rise if
נקבלה.
it's comfortable.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וצהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
It is wonderful to be able to join together in community as we offer these prayers of our tradition. The concept of minyan, of gathering together in community, is so important, and COVID has thrown us all for a loop. I'd love to go back to our practice of inviting you to shake everyone's hand to meet the people around you, but doing so would kind of destroy the social distancing protocols we have going on with the seats placed. But I would at least invite you to turn to the people around you, to acknowledge them, to give them a nod or a wink, to wish them a Shabbat Shalom as we join in sacred community tonight. And we continue our words of welcoming. I invite you to find your seat as we turn to page 24, welcoming God's ministering angels to be with us as well.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Nihi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Kadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Nihi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mihi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
If it is comfortable for you to do so, I invite you to again rise as we continue pages 26 and 27. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without God's presence. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'amad yivrahute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayekom v'yomekom, u'vayenu b'nei Yisrael. Bagala, Bagala, U'yizman kari, v'yimeru amen. Yesh me'rava mevorach, ve'alam me'olam me'omaya, Yirbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei l'kudashah v'yichu le'ela mincho birchata v'shirata tush birchata v'nechem asa damim v'yimeru. 28, our Baruch Hu praise, our call to worship.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Ad. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Ad. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai.
Would you read with me in the English on the top of page 31? Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamarim Aravim. And on the bottom of page 33, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Hamon Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. We continue page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
On pages 40 and 41, sing the song of men and women, join in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעלה בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מי כמוך בעלים אדוני,
top of page 43 and the Hebrew words on the top of page 42. We ask God to bring a shelter of peace over us and over all in this world with the onset of evening.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu leshalom. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
And on page 44, we find words of Vishamru recognizing Shabbat, celebrating Shabbat as a covenant upheld between God and the Jewish people for all time.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ונפש, שבת ונפש, שבת ונפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בברית עולם.
Shabbat Amidah Tefillah, the central portion of our prayers, begin on page 46 in our Siddur, page 46 and following. I invite you to rise if it's comfortable for you to do so as we join in song and prayer together.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi ki tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chastei avot v'imahot, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הצהל, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישירה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלם. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. And would you join me in the English on the top of page 55? May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Shabbat. And on the bottom of page 57, you are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, Before we continue with words of Shalom Rav on page 60, I invite you to add to these prayers that have sustained generations of the Jewish people, the prayers, the meditations, that which can only come from each of our own hearts. We continue in a moment of silent prayer.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Mishaberach lecholim, our prayer for healing, our prayer asking God's comforting presence to be with those who are ill, a prayer asking God to be with the doctors and nurses and CNAs and care teams caring for loved ones, asking God to be with each of us as we bring a measure of healing and hope, of comfort, whether through a delivery of chicken soup or a phone call or a text message to those who are suffering from ailments of mind, of body, of spirit. Are there those for whom you are thinking this evening, prayers for healing and comfort and love? If you're with us in the virtual space, I would invite you to share their name in the space you are in, perhaps, or using the comment box if you're comfortable doing so. And if you're in the room and you have names you wish to share for our prayer for healing, I invite you to say their name as my eyes meet yours.
Vivian Florence Sharotek.
Irene Beniglia.
Linda Scott.
Thatcher Abrams and Larry Goldstein.
Sabina Harlan and Lucy Fisher.
John Slayton.
Jefferson Genslinger, Judy Miranda.
Baruch atah Adonai rofeh hacholim. Blessed are you, God, who brings comfort to all who are ill. We continue page 253.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Nisheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
It's really quite amazing what us human beings can communicate even without words. With masks and our eyeballs, of course, but also through the noises we make. If we're trying really hard to do something, we might make a grunt. If we hear a really bad joke, we might make a groan. Have you practiced your groan lately? Get ready for it. Yeshiva University knew that this was going to be their year. For the first time in school history, scholarships were given out not for academic merit, but for physical prowess. Young men, were picked to be part of a crew boat, a crew skal, not only because they were scholars of Talmud, but because they were hardy and hale, tall and stocky, and ready to row. The team traveled from New York to Cambridge for the head of the Charles. They stretched, they pulled, they grunted, They lost miserably. What happened? They'd been training so hard, taking time away from their Talmud studies. This must have been an anomaly. The second heat, they stretched, they pulled, they rowed, they lost. Their coach was beside himself in frustration. After the team's third straight loss, they sat dejected on the bleachers, watching the better teams row. Trying to turn lemons into lemonade, the coach challenged his team to look, to observe what those winning boats might have been doing differently. "You're each scholars," he said, "capable of looking for fine nuances where others might not even notice there was anything to pick up on. What are those boats doing that you were not?" They watched, they observed, and the team captain said, "I think I finally see it. In each of those other boats, there are 8 people rowing and only 1 who is shouting." This week's Torah portion contains an interesting description about the selection of Joshua as Moses' successor. Ish asher ruach bo, a man in whom there is ruach, spirit. There are many different ways throughout Jewish tradition of interpreting this verse. Perhaps it meant the Spirit of God was with him, which seems likely for Moses' successor. Maybe it meant that he was a charismatic, spirited leader, as Ibn Ezra says, capable of strong leadership. Maybe it meant that he himself was hardy and hale, physically stronger and younger than Moses and ready to lead. My favorite interpretation, though, of Ish Asher Ruach Bo, a man in whom there was spirit, comes from Rashi and comes from Midrash, where it says Joshua was attuned to the spirits of those he led. It wasn't that he himself had spirit, he was attuned to the spirits of those he led. You see, while Moses was used to guiding whole communities, leading the entirety of the people from Egypt, leading the entirety of the people to Sinai, Joshua was uniquely suited, our text says, to lead a community of individuals. He was able, as tradition says, to accommodate himself to each person's spirit. Joshua understood that the Israelites were far from a monolith, but rather differentiated individuals who are standing together in one community. Each had his or her own qualities, eccentricities, uniquenesses, and like the Jewish community today, each person requires an individual touch. It's an important lesson for us even now. When we look at groups of people, as big as whole nationalities or religious groups, or as small as a family or a crew, we realize that it's a mistake to assume that they're all going in the same direction for the exact same reason. We who gather here tonight in this room or in the virtual space do so for many reasons. We come together as people who mourn and people who remember. We come together to connect with God and to connect with our neighbors. We want to be comforted or challenged or connected or inspired. We can't be generalized when we step into a space, when we get into a boat, when we stood at Sinai. It's why the Jewish blessing, there's a blessing for everything in Jewish tradition. There's a blessing for when you see a rainbow. There's a blessing for when you see lightning. And there's a blessing for when you see a large group of people. And that blessing is, "Blessed are you, God, knower of secrets." Why? Because each person is unique. We are each our own individuals. It's why Joshua, Ish Asher Ruach Bo, a man in whom there was spirit, who was attuned to others' spirit, was the perfect leader for the people. able to recognize the differences before they went to the promised land, able to take it upon himself to bring out the best in each individual, challenging and inspiring so that all of the ancient Israelites were rowing in the same direction. May we continue to learn from his wisdom. Shabbat Shalom. More on this week's Torah portion as we compare this section of the book of Numbers to a section from the book of Deuteronomy for our Shabbat morning Torah study at 9 a.m. We are back open in person for our Shabbat morning Torah study, and I would invite anyone who wishes to join us in person to do so through the community room or the library entrance right below us. We're going to be back in there where the acoustics work a little bit better for those who are choosing to join us on Zoom as well. And that link can be found on Facebook tomorrow morning. For now, though, we continue by opening the Ark and concluding our service. Words of Aleinu L'Shabeach, page 282. Marty, any chance I could convince you, Marty Altschul, a member of our Board of Trustees, to open the Ark? And as you find your page 282, I would invite you to rise.
Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol L'Tikru L'Litzeh Breshit Shelo Asanu K'goyei Haratzot V'lo Samanu K'mishpachot Ha'adama Shelo Samchakenu Kahem V'Goralenu Kechol Hamonam V'anachnu Korim U'mishtachavim U'modim Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'ne'emar V'ha'adonai Melech HaKol ha'aretz V'yom ha'hu Yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad.
I invite you to be seated. As at this time in our service, we turn to page 294 for words of Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, remembering those who have gone before us. We observe the period of Shloshim for Bernard J. Barr, Selma Florence Cuby, Richard Solak, and Ruth Schulman. In this Shabbat, we mark the yahrzeit of Rhea Benson Eric, Claire Sandra Baver, Abe J. Bremen, Mary Alpern Bremen, Rosalie I. Kaplan, Mary Cohen, Esther Fisher, Lori Sue Goldberg, Jack Chick Hausman, Martin Herman, Bernard Herman, Charles Hirsch, Betty Hubert, Harold Hubert, Dora Katz, Leonard Lebo, Myron Maxwell, Lawrence I. Miller, Joel S. Purr, Blanche Pittigoff, Bessie Ringelheim, Charlotte Rosenberg, Mildred Rosenberg, Robert Rothschild, David B. Rive, Gertrude Shore, Jenny Shapiro, David Howard Staff, Jules Taffler, Louis Taffler, Lois Tucker, Bertha S. Thompson, David Ullman, and Tilly Zisman. Charles Hirsch, Betty Hubert, Harold Hubert, Dora Katz, Leonard Lebo, Myron Maxwell, Lawrence I. Miller, Joel S. Purr, Blanche Pittigoff, Bessie Ringelheim, Charlotte Rosenberg, Mildred Rosenberg, Robert Rothschild, David B. Rive, Gertrude Shore, Jenny Shapiro, David Howard Staff, Jules Taffler, Louis Taffler, Lois Tucker, Bertha S. Thompson, David Ullman, and Tilly Zisman. If there are others you are remembering this Shabbat, or if I have inadvertently mispronounced the name of a loved one, I invite you to share their name in the comment box in the space you are in, that their memories might come flooding back to share their name in this room. Yehei zichronam livracha. May the memory of all of our loved ones be for us an everlasting blessing. I would invite you to rise if it's comfortable to do so, as together we affirm words of Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabba, v'amad yivrach Yerusei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayei kon v'yomei kon, v'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabban V'arach Le'olam Olamei Hamayar. Yisbarach Yishtabach Yishpahar Yitramam Yitnaseh. Yithadar Yitalev Yitalal Shmei Grisha G'richu. Le'elam Yinkol Yerchata V'shirata. Tushvachata V'nechamata. Daviram Yoma V'imru. Amen. Yehei Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ya'kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom min Ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ya'kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May God, who makes peace in the highest of heavens, make peace for us and for all who mourn. And together we say, Amen. I invite you to be seated as we join together in those final words on the page as our closing song this evening.
Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
Part of the reason that Joshua was recognized as a leader is because he led the people out and he brought them in. We see repeatedly in the Torah portion, and as Joshua so blessed the people, may we be so blessed by God. Adonai yishmor tzeitecha uvoecha, l'chaim u'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. May God bless your going out to a meaningful and peaceful Shabbat, to a celebratory and safe holiday weekend. And may God bless your coming in for life and peace evermore. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.